Okay, in this video, we're going to take a look at doing algebra, the basic algebra that we covered in the math examples. We're going to see if we can write a function, and this is probably going to be, or most definitely will be, the most complicated function that we've written so far. So it's going to take a little bit of thought to make this work. But first, let's get our function defined. So what we're going to do is I've already created one here that I had commented out called we're defining do algebra. And so we're going to come down here and modify our for loop to add one more element. We're going to come down here and grab our number 4, and we're going to tell it to do a number 5. So if the x is number 5, let's practice some algebra, and we'll practice 10 algebra problems. And then we need to come down here to our single while loop now, and we need to grab one of these, and we'll paste it right here, and we'll change this to I is 5, and then we'll change this to do algebra. So that gets our function called. And so now what we need to do is actually write our function. So the general idea here is that we need to be able to build an equation that looks something like this. So let's say AB equals Z. Or we could build one that says A plus B equals C. Or maybe we build one that looks like A divided by B equals C. Or we could say something like this: A plus B plus C equals Z. And so there's a number of different things that we could define to build this algebraic equation. And all we're trying to do is to make sure that when you're practicing your algebra, that you've got enough rules in here to practice the things that you've learned up to that point. So we know how to deal with plus and minuses, we know how to deal with multiplication, and we know how to deal with division. This is an order of operations problem, so we may or may not want to get into that right now. In fact, we'll just say that we're not going to mess with that right now. We're only going to focus on these 3 guys right here. So I want to put a comment line in front of each one of these because I don't want them messing with my code. And so now let's think about how we can build this equation. So the first thing that we're going to need to know are the letters that we're going to use to represent the thing. So let's just say that we're going to always use A, B, and C. And so for right now, we'll let that be the focus, but eventually we'll come in and add additional letters and additional functions. But this is probably going to be the function that we are continually coming in here and messing with to add more complicated questions as we learn more and more about algebra. So we know we're going to use A, B, and C. So the first thing that we need to know is, are we going to do addition, subtraction, or are we going to do multiplication, or are we going to do division? And so let's jump up here and let's grab, we'll just grab in fact, we'll grab this denominator question right here, and we'll throw a random question in here. So we are going to say operation equals random integer, and we want to go from 1 to, let's see, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Those are going to be the only 4 that we worry about right now. So we'll just say from 1 to 5. And so that should give us a number between 1 and 4. Because that second operand is, if I'm remembering correctly, is going to give us our upper limit. So we're not actually going to get to 5. It's a little weird the way this is working. And I could be wrong. We'll test this in a second. So now what we're going to do is we're going to define what those things are. So we're going to say 1 equals plus, 2 equals minus, 3 equals multiplication, and 4 equals division. So those are going to be the 4 things that we're looking for right now. So now what we're going to do is we need to build our equation, but our equation is going to be based on what that operator is. And so if it's multiplication, then we're going to write A and B together. And if it's division, then we're going to put them over the top of each other. If it's addition and subtraction, we're going to put the plus or the minus in between them. So we kind of have to have a little bit of information here as to know how we're going to actually build this equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if, and we're going to say if operation equals a 1, then this tells us that this is our addition. And so in the case of addition, we're going to make question be equal to, and we're going to say A, and we know that it is an addition problem. The question is how do we want to do our letters? Because if every addition always says A plus B equals C, that may be a little bit too much of a giveaway. If we change the letters up, maybe that'll be a little bit more confusing, because technically the letters don't make any difference at all. It's more a matter of the operand itself, and we want to make sure that they understand that. So to begin with, we'll just hard code these now, and then we'll come back in another video and make them more complicated. So right now we're just going to say A plus B equals C. All right, so that's going to be our question. Well, that's going to be our equation. And then we're going to do question 2, and we're going to make it be solve for and we're going to make this be something that we have to figure out. So let's open a line up here, and let's get us another random number. So this other random number is going to be solve for, and it's just going to be a 0 or a 1. We'll just say a 1 or a 2. In fact, maybe, well, again, we're going to have to check this because we may have to actually come back and do that. So now what we want to do is we want to say A plus B equals C is our question, and now we're going to solve for some random thing. And so we know that we're always going to be solving for an A or a B, so we only need one of two things. So we're going to say, get this back up here, we're going to say if, I don't know why that is out of there. I hate this space thing. Okay, so we're just going to say if that is 1, we're going to say if solve for equals 1, then we're going to tell it to question 2 is going to be solve for A. And then else question 2 equals solve for B. Okay. So we got a random number here that is going to be let's just do, we'll do 0 to 2, and we'll say, I tell you what, let's jump, because I can't remember on my random functions here. Let's go Python random generator. Whoops. And we'll jump over here. Let's see. Get down here to functions, stop, start, and step. I don't like this format of that site. Let's just, all we need is something that shows us the function so we can, all right, so this is using a little bit different method here. Random integer. So this is this is doing something totally different. So let's tell you what, I'm gonna go to DuckDuckGo so I can get off of all this advertising crap. Python random. So let's take a look at this guy. That was the one we looked at earlier. That one has no examples. So sometimes when you're looking for this stuff, you kind of have to bounce around and find a good site. We had a good site the other day, but for some reason we were having a hard time finding it. Import random int 0 to 5. This will input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got it backwards. So the first number looks like you want it to be the lower limit. So it's, if I put 0, it's going to be everything higher than a 0. And then the upper limit, I don't know why they do it this way. It's kind of crazy. But the upper limit will be 5. So random choice. All right, so we've got some things that we can do there. So then let's just change what we have here. So we're going to tell this that we're going to be, we want this to be 1 to 4. And then, which means that I want this to be 0 to 4. And then this is going to be 0 to 1. Well, no, it would have to be 0 to 2 to get an answer of 1 or 2. And then we're just going to delete the comment off of here. And we'll say which letter to solve. All right, so then we got solve for. If it equals a 1, then we're going to tell it to solve for the A. And if it equals a 2, then we're going to solve for the B. And to keep these videos short, we may just do one of these operations at a time so that we don't take too long to get this video done. All right, so that's going to be our question. And so now if we come up here, here's our question that we had before. And then we had from here down, we're going to continue to work with. So we're going to come down here and just paste the rest of this back down here. The difference is here is this says if operation equals a 1. So we want to make sure that all of this lines up with that 1 so that it operates inside of that if statement. We don't want it operating outside of it. Now, we're going to be normalizing or fixing this later, so when we refactor it to make it easier to look at, but right now we're just trying to get it to work. So we have answer is the input of question, and actually this needs to be it needs to be question plus a carriage return plus question 2. So you're going to basically show A plus B equals C, and then right under it, it'll say solve for A or B. All right. And so then we are going to get our answer, and we're going to be, so what we could do here, what we could do is let's just come down here. So here is our for loop that we have asking all of our questions. We only want to test the fifth thing here, but what we're going to do instead is I'm going to just add a call up here and say do algebra, and we're just going to call that function one time at the top of the for loop before we start doing all of our other stuff. So what we're after is we want to see what the question is going to be. Is this thing look right, and is it doing a different question every time that we run it? All right, so let's jump out here and let's run the thing. And so we have a problem with do algebra on line 139. Define do algebra. Oh, we forgot our colon at the end. So let's do it again. And now we have a problem on 151 for our else statement. And again, it's that colon that's got to be at the end of it. Where did we put that else? I remember putting an else. Here it is right here. So we're going to insert a colon there. Okay, so this thing is asking for multiplication tables. It looks like it didn't. Oh, the problem here, I want to quit out of that. The problem is that we didn't actually print anything here. We need to, well, yeah, this is our print. So it should have, if it came in here. Oh, so the problem right now is our random operator. It's only going to print something if we actually had an operator of 1. So we're going to just tell it to set operator equal to 1 so that we make sure that this if statement runs every time. Now we want to delete this in a minute. We're just doing this to force it to run. And again, it didn't actually print anything. So let's jump back in here and look again. So it should have come in here. Oh, it's not operator, it's operation. Operation. All right, and so now it says A plus B equals C, solve for A. All right, and so I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to quit that, and I'm going to run it again. And then we're going to run it again and see. So we got A plus B. This time it says solve for B. So again, I'm going to quit. We're going to run it one more time, and A plus B, solve for B. So it looks like that is actually working. And so that gives us a multiplication problem, actually an addition problem. So 1 is addition, so we are building our equation, and then it's going to ask us to solve that particular equation. And so the next thing is right here, we're telling it to convert our answer into a float. All of this can go away, primarily because the answer is going to be a string, and we're going to leave it a string. Because in this case, we're dealing with letters. We're not dealing with adding and subtracting numbers. So we're going to get rid of this try except thing, which also means that we then need to grab all of this code and back it up. So that lines everything up with this if operation 1. So we're telling it what to solve for, and then we're giving them an input question. They're going to answer it. If the answer was Q, then we're going to exit this exercise. If it was a capital Q, we exit with a 3. Otherwise, we return a 1. And then we say if the final answer equals, all right, so now what is the answer? So we need to get rid of all this, and we're going to say, so the answer to A plus B equals C, and we're solving for an unknown. We don't know which one the program said to solve for. So we'll put a quote there for a second. So let's go back up here where it says solve for A and solve for B, and we're going to put answer equals. And so what is A plus B equals C solved for A? And so at that point, it would be B or A equals. And here's where things get a little tricky that we've got to decide is, do we want to force the user to not put any spaces in here, or do we want to provide multiple answers so that we've got the option to handle both scenarios? For right now, we're going to say don't put spaces in the answer, and that'll make our code easier. But eventually, you want to actually be able to handle both. And I'll show you how to do that. All right, so we're going to say A equals, and this is going to end up being C, and then it'll be minus C minus B. So if you take A plus B equals C, and you're solving for A, then you're going to take the B across the equal sign and it'll swap its sign. So it'll go from a plus to a negative and it'll just be C minus B. So that'll be your answer if you go that way. I'm going to grab that, and in the else condition, I'm going to do the same thing. So this time we'll be solving for B. So we're going to say B equals C minus A. So that's going to give us the answer to that particular equation. And so now we'll come down here, we'll grab the A, and then we're just going to say if final answer equals answer, then we're going to print good job. Otherwise, we're going to print wrong answer. The correct answer was, and we're going to delete all this, and we're going to say answer. So that will be that answer. And then we also see all that stuff is okay. That's okay. Okay, so theoretically, if we jump out here and run our program, we have, oh, that was the part that I forgot about. We got to put our colon at the end of the if statement. Our else has already got it, so let's try it again. All right, so it says A plus B equals C, solve for B. So this answer is going to be B equals C minus A. So it says, oh, and so at this point, it didn't tell me that I was right or wrong. So we need to see what's going on with that. So let's quit out of here. All right, so it should have, oh, the problem is that right here, we're comparing final answer, which is where we converted it from a string to an int, and we've done away with that final answer. So now we're actually just looking at answer because that's what we've collected here. We didn't actually convert it. And if you want to know what I'm looking at, go look at one of your other functions for the final answer variable and see what you're doing there. Why is that wrong? So now we're going to come down here. Let's make sure. Let's just try this again. So this is solve for B again. So we're going to say B equals C minus A, and it still did not give us any information. So why is that? And the answer, so we got answer equals question plus question, and let's make this do not include spaces in answer. All right, so we get our answer, and ours should have been B equals C minus A, and then we're saying answer equals whatever they type in, and then we're saying if answer was a Q, if answer was a capital Q. Oh, okay, so the problem here is this last thing. So we want to look to see if answer was a Q, and if it was, we want to return 2. If answer was a capital Q, then we want to tell it to exit the application and return a 3. But we do not want to return this 1 because what's happening is we don't have our try except block anymore. So in this case, we want to actually do nothing here. We want to let it filter through the rest of this so that we actually have a correct answer. So the problem here is when we had that else condition, it was always getting hit with, because we didn't put a capital Q in, it was always getting hit and it was causing it to return, and it was never getting to any of this code over here. So keep in mind that whenever you hit a return, this function, the code is going to leave this function and go back to where it got called from. And in our case, it got called from this line 175 right here, and it causes it to just go back out there and ask me for another question. So let's save that. Let's jump back out. Whoop. Jump back out here. All right, so A plus B equals C, solve for B. So that's going to be B equals C minus A. All right, so it says good job, and it did its thing. So let's try it again. This time let's put a wrong answer in. So we'll say A plus B, and we'll hit enter. And this time it says wrong answer. The correct answer was this. So let's practice multiplication. All right. So now what we're going to do, I think, to kind of keep this in small chunks so you don't get too totally confused, is we're going to stop this video. Right now we have our addition functions working. So what we're going to do is we are going to stop the video. I'm going to do another video, and we're going to take a look at adding our subtraction. And then in that video, we're actually going to take a look at whether we can clean this code up a little bit so we don't have to have such a big block, because right now each of our operations is going to include a block that's this big. And the answer is, do we really need a block that big? So before you start watching the next video, look at this code and see if you see some things that are going to be repeated over and over that we might be able to do away with and have the code be a little bit simpler.